Um, not sure if everything is okay. Um, can you give us a moment? We're experiencing some quick technical difficulties. Um, we'll be back just now. We're experiencing some technical difficulties right now. Okay. Um, welcome back. Okay. Tinashe, are you there?
Greetings, greetings. Yes, I'm there. Yes, I'm there. Just a bit of technical difficulties, but I'm good to go.
Okay, you may go ahead, bro. We're live. You may go ahead. You may introduce. We are live.
Yes. Greetings. Hello. My name is Tinashe Demira, and today with us we also have Nasis Mbuyo, who will be taking us through natural language processing, which is a form of artificial intelligence by which computers can understand human language. But I'm looking forward to learn more about it. I have a vague idea of what it entails and its applications, but I'm looking forward to learning some more today. So, Narcis, if you are no delays, let's get
Okay.
started.
Thank you, Tinashe. Today we're just gonna have a quick episode. Mostly gonna cover theory, and we'll see how it goes. And then throughout the week, we'll be doing more practical stuff as usual as we do on Inspire SA. So, um, I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see my screen? Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, thanks.
So think about this. How often are you alive when the dawn of a new medium comes out? I knew that I had to be a part of VR because there are no rules for what VR should be. Starship Commander is a choose your own adventure VR narrative that uses natural language processing so you can actually have a real conversation with the characters.
I'm Sergeant Sarah Pearson. I've been assigned to your wing today.
When we started making Starship Commander, we had to figure out how do we get technology that can understand what a person's saying so that we can have these new narrative experiences. We're a science fiction game. We come up with new words. No off-the-shelf software could let us put in custom words.
Who are the Echnians?
In our story, the bad guys are called the Echnians. And every time we said Echnian, it would come up with really weird words that were similar to other things that you would say. And so it would get confused all the time. So we needed to make sure that we could supply our own script. We started using Microsoft Cognitive Services to power the backend of Starship Commander.
Looks cool.
Once we plugged custom speech service into Starship Commander, I had tears in my eyes when I was playing it because it's like, oh my God, this is it. This is the experience we want. Open the hatch.
Voice print accepted. Welcome, Commander.
You can essentially put your script in there and it knows, oh, these are the ways that people are going to talk. And these are the phrases that they're going to say.
Cool. What's my mission?
It must be something pretty important.
And then the second thing, too, was the intent detection. With Lewis, you basically give it a couple statements. After you've given it a couple statements, you crunch it and you start typing in your own statements. And it's shockingly scary how good it picks up even stuff that you didn't put in there.
Computer, use autopilot and let's be on our way.
Autopilot engaging.
I've never seen an opportunity like this where there's a wide open playing field. No one's written the rules yet. There's going to be tons of amazing software out there, and I just can't wait to see what other people write.
And there you go. This is just like a glimpse of what we'll be talking about, and a glimpse of what we'll be touching in the coming few weeks. So that was just like an introduction video of what natural language processing is basically all about. Um, I'm just gonna share my screen again. So what did you think of the video, Tinashe, as I get into the presentation?
I know. I found it quite fascinating. Also, I was also interested in how they integrated um, unknown words into the system, because they said they use natural language processing. Uh, but I actually found it quite interesting, especially as somebody who's a former gamer myself. But yes, I'll be keen to hear some more regarding NLP.
Awesome. Well, you asked some good questions, and I hope that this presentation will answer those questions by itself, as you can see. So
Yes.
there you go. Welcome to AI, the tool of for tomorrow, our main subline that we've been going on since the beginning of the show. And today we'll be talking about introduction to natural language processing, in short, NLP. So, what is NLP? In simple terms, NLP, natural language processing is the processing done by devices, machine gadgets, smart devices, etc., to understand the human language or interact with it via text and speech, as you can see in the definition. In other words, we can also say that natural language processing includes supporting applications that can see, hear, speak, and understand users. So basically, it's a mean of communication between us human beings and our machines and our devices and our gadgets and our everyday electronic powered system that we use in our daily life. So that's what it basically means. That communication, as we international speaking via using the English language, the English medium to communicate and to understand each other. Our devices that we use uses NLP for us to communicate with them. As you can see, that's in simple terms what is NLP, natural language processing. Now let's dive into more about what it is. So here are the key elements of what natural language processing includes, right? So as we said at the beginning, it's the capability for computer to interpret written or spoken language and respond in a kind, as I said, a communication medium, just to reinforce what natural language processing is about. It enables us to create software that can analyze and interpret text. It allows us to it allows devices to interpret spoken language, whatever language it can be, Zulu, Afrikaans, Swahili, French, Xhosa, German, whatever language you can think of, it will be able to respond and also synchronize speech responses, meaning it can write it down as well as we're speaking. It also can automatically translate spoken or written phrases between language and interpret commands and determine appropriate actions. As you saw in the video, how that said, let's get on our way and blast away, and you saw that the starship interpreted that. As you can see, it produced our action. And the last point refers to our smart houses. When I say open window, the window opens. Open the fridge opens. That is us, me communicating with my fridge. That is me communicating with my smart curtains, smart binders. I don't know how they call it, but that's what natural language processing includes. So I won't reiterate the point as I said, we're gonna have like a quick episode today. Moving on, but if I'm too fast, Tinashe, you can just slow me down and ask questions so that our viewers can really understand what it's all about.
No, definitely, I will ask.
Awesome. So as moving on, we now gonna look at Microsoft Azure, the natural language in Microsoft Azure. So what are the services that Azure offers offer us that we can use NLP in? So as we can see, we have text analysis, translator text, speech, and Lewis, language understanding intelligence servers. So in the game that we just saw, or in the video that we just saw, they made use of Lewis, the language understanding intelligence servers. And thereafter, the text analysis, it's the ability to analyze text. Translator text is the translation, and then speech is for us to speak to the gadget, and it also for the gadget to speak to us. So like our Siri, our Google Assistant, our Bixby, that those are all speech examples, as you can see. And I'm going to elaborate further on this, and we'll be touching on this in the coming weeks as well. So wow, these are like big words. Like it looks like too much information on one slide, but I'll just simply break it down to you, right? So basically, when we look at text analysis, right? Text analysis is a process where artificial intelligence, or AI, uses an algorithm on a computer which is used to which evaluates or scans to determine certain attributes in a text to determine specific insights. So that's like a big definition. In other words, it uses an algorithm to scan a certain text, a certain document, to get a certain attribute or certain attributes that it's looking for in order to get a certain result. As I said, specific insight. So normally, as us human beings, we'll rely on our own knowledge and experience in a language to get a specific insight, maybe to translate a language, maybe to find a synonym of a text or what. But now we don't have to, and we don't have to worry about that anymore, because one thing about us is that our knowledge is very limited. We may not fully master a language to its full extent. For example, English. There's a saying out there that English never loved us. But now with AI, with text analysis, we can use text analysis to do things that we have limited capabilities to do. So to find the synonyms of a certain word, to find better words to use. For example, Grammarly. Grammarly is an example of text analysis. It looks it looks for errors in our writing. It looks to change to improve our writing in so many different ways. I can go on elaborating about how it works, but these are some of the techniques that we use as human beings to analyze text, and this is also what we trained our algorithm to use as well. So I hope that makes sense. And moving on to analyze the text, to moving on to analyzing text with the text analytical servers on Microsoft Azure. So in order for us to use it, right, we have to remember that the text analysis is a service which is cloud-based on Azure. So it's a cloud-based service on Azure that provides advanced natural language processing over raw text for sentiment analysis, key extractions, and entity recognition and language detection. So basically, to analyze how one person is feeling, that sentiment analysis, to look for certain key phrase in the text. So basically, what that whole document, what whole that text is all about. It identifies the keywords. Entity recognition, identify people, characters, objects in that text, and also identify the language that it's in. So basically, moving on, it's a service that can simply help development by using pre-trained models that can determine the language of the document, as I mentioned earlier, whether it's English or French, perform sentiment analysis, extract keywords, identify and categorize entities such as people or places, and everyday items, as you can see. I feel like I'm just trying to find a way to reiterate what I'm saying without going too fast or too slow and missing out content. I hope that makes sense and was well informed.
Yes.
Um,
Narcis,
yes.
so I've got a question. So you brought up an interesting thing. You said it analyzes the type of language, and it's okay if you can't answer, but it's just something that came to mind. So, is natural language processing capable of recognizing when you're interchanging between languages, for example? So, does it recognize? Is it at a stage where it recognizes the nuances? Like if you're speaking, let's say in English, and then you switch to isiZulu, and then you switch back. Is it at the stage that it can detect in bits and pieces or in part the language
Yes,
being
it
used at
can.
a time, or does it focus on one at a time?
Yes, it can detect the language that is used. So, for example, if you use multiple languages, it's gonna detect that you used Afrikaans, Zulu, whichever language that you used in that specific phrase or in the specific document, as you mentioned. It will identify the language that you use specifically, whether it's English, whether it's Zulu, whether it's Afrikaans.
Okay, no,
I know,
thank you
like
very
it's scary, right? It's scary. Like
much.
who would imagine to be hearing this type of things?
Yeah, but then now my question is, so with usual AI, your machine learning, your deep learning, it relies on a lot of data, right? Uh,
Yes.
so my question is, where does NLP typically source its data? Because it's interesting that they can pick up other languages, because certain languages may not be as well represented uh, online as opposed to other more commonly represented languages such as English. So, are you aware of maybe where perhaps it gets its database or its sources of information so it can essentially improve the performance and accuracy?
Hmm. Well, as you said, it's all about data, as you mentioned, machine learning
Mm-hmm.
and everything. Everything related to AI, it's all about data. The more you feed it, the better it becomes. So with this instance, same thing with text, with natural language processing. The more you train it, the more documents, the more words you feed it, the more languages you give it, the better it becomes. You know. So basically, as you mentioned earlier, as we're even gonna see throughout the presentation, that it relies on a certain amount of words for it to work. It relies on a certain amount of documentation for it to work. You understand? So the more you train it, the better it becomes. And it's sourced by what we say. If we talk using speech, the more we speak to it, the better it becomes. Text analysis, the more text that we give it, the more documentation that we give it, the better it becomes. As simple as that.
Mm-hmm. So, are there are you aware of any companies, firms, or just in general? Is anyone how can I say? Is anyone solely dedicated? So basically, I'm aware that some companies uh, dedicate human capital towards identifying images, image segmentation, and everything in order to train computers for computer vision and for various purposes. Are there any? You don't have to name them, but are you aware of any companies or institutions which are training uh, computers to recognize perhaps indigenous languages
Honestly,
uh,
I'm not sure.
in a local context?
Honestly,
Okay,
honestly,
so there's
I'm not sure.
possibilities there.
That's something to look into, to be honest.
Okay, you see ideas. We have ideas here on Inspire. We inspire, but
Yes.
let's continue.
like even I hope Yolanda is watching us right now. So basically, here on Inspire SDA, we had a problem on how to cater for our handicapped users, our handicapped viewers. So basically, with natural language processing, we can now use NLP to make lifetime captions as we're talking on the show. As you're watching, there will be lifetime caption
Mm-hmm.
as we are talking with the use of NLP. you know so if we have an indigenous language that we speak here in South Africa on Inspire SA, we can train it to pick up that indigenous language, and it's also going to be captioned there as the viewer is watching, you see.
Okay, but that brings up another interesting point, because you say for also handicapped uh, viewers, and I'm sure somebody's already doing this, but I mean, more minds to one problem will always produce better solutions. Sort of like
Mm.
using natural language processing to take. Does it only work with written speech, or can it? Does it work with also audio cues as well, or is it currently only in the written uh, the written text stage, written or typed text stage. Are you aware of the developments before I continue with my question?
Um, it's with both, with all form for all format of communication, speech and text, basically. As you'll see
Okay.
throughout the presentation, and we are still gonna get there.
Okay. Apologies. We haven't reached there. Okay. Continue. I'll push this question to then.
Okay, no problem. So basically, where this slide that we are on right now. Thank you, Tinashe, for the questions. Some insightful questions. We can carry on talking about it, discussing about it, but we won't finish the presentation. So I'll just move on so we can quickly finish and even see some demos at the end. To quickly finish, basically. So basically, text analysis is used by social media feeds to analyze our text that we do, document search, tool extraction, and these are just like some of the examples where text analysis is used. Like for example, as university students, they say that if we plagiarize, there's gonna be a scan. 5%, if it's more than 5%, we're gonna get caught for plagiarism. What do they use? Text analysis. Social media, when you're posting or writing something, it automatically auto corrects you. What does it use? Social media. This social media feed to detect the sentiment and the political campaign around a product in the market. Another one is another example where it's used, as I mentioned, it's Grammarly. So there are so many examples that we can use text analysis in, and it's really, really awesome and powerful. Those are just few examples that I'm going to mention. So how to get started with text analysis on Azure. So first thing, you're going to need to create your resource on Azure. As you can see, the text analysis service, you must create an appropriate resource on Azure, either the text analysis resource or the cognitive service resource. So the text analysis resource is a specific resource just dedicated for text analysis, or a cognitive service resource is a resource dedicated for all the AI features, which includes text analysis. I hope you don't get those two confused. And text analysis covers language detection, ambiguous or mixed language content. Tinashe, you asked about it earlier on. Zulu, Afrikaans, you mix it all between, it's still gonna pick up. Sentiment analysis, it's gonna pick up how you're feeling or what you are trying, how you are feeling as you are writing that text. Even if this interdeterminate sentiment, meaning that the feelings that you are not even feeling, or like it's like undecided, it can also pick it up as well. Phrase extraction and entity recognition. Like I can really spend time talking about all these things, but to move on for the purpose of the show. Here's more information that I wanted us to go through, but we won't go through because of time. Now we're gonna move on to recognize and synthesize speech. Now moving on to speech, we're letting go of text analysis, we're moving on to speech basically. So basically, as I mentioned, our Siri, our Bixby, our Google Assistant, they all use natural language processing. And what form of natural language processing is that they use speech, as we're looking at it. They use the speech, a part of natural language processing. So which enable us to interact with them like as if we're talking to another human. So basically it consists of two parts: speech recognition and speech synthesis. Speech recognition is the ability to detect and interpret spoken input. So when I say, hey Siri, what's the weather, it's interpreting what I said. Speech synthesis, the ability to generate spoken output. So basically Siri is going to check the weather and tell me it's 64 degrees outside, 64 degrees today. Now it's checked the weather and it's giving me feedback. That's speech synthesis. So now let's move on to more in depth. I won't cover everything on the slides, as you can see. So speech recognition is considered as talking with the spoken word and converting it into data that can be processed. So basically it's taking what I said. Tinashe, you asked about this. It's basically using audio format and it's converting it into a data that it can be used to, that can be that it understands basically, and it's processed. So as we say, often by transcribing it into a text representation. So that's how it understands the speech that we're telling it. And it can be in the form of recorded audio files, live audio from or live audio from a microphone. So like I could go into it, but as you can see, this is basically how speech recognition works, right? An acoustic model converts. This is something else about um, about how this is like a more in-depth analysis about speech recognition works, and I won't really explain it because of time. But basically, where it's used for providing closed caption for recorded or live videos, creating transcript of a phone or call meeting. So when we're on Teams, I mean when we're on Teams, and you're recording a meeting, we can transcribe the meeting because of speech recognition, automate note detection, as I said, and determine intended user input for further processing. So those are just examples of it. Moving on to speech synthesis. As I said earlier on, speech synthesis is the ability to create, like write outspoken input, the ability um, to generate spoken output, as I mentioned earlier. So speech synthesis is the reverse of speech recognition. So it's just the opposite. It's concerned with vocalizing data, usually by converting it to text to speech. A speech synthesis solution requires the following information: the text to be spoken and the voice to be used to vocalize the speech. So in order for speech synthesis to work, it needs two things: the text to be spoken and the voice to be used to vocalize the speech. Looks like Tinashe went out, but then putting back in. Yeah, welcome back, Tinashe. I'm trying to hurry it up so we can
Greetings.
at least see some demo. Yes. So basically, these are the
Hi.
how speech synthesis works. Speech synthesis works. As I mentioned, needs the text to be spoken and the voice it needs to vocalize the speech. I won't go on how exactly in detail speech synthesis works because it's like a long audio. I mean, a long explanation because of time. So, in a way, where is speech synthesis used? It's used to generate in spoken responses to user input. As I asked Siri, "What is the weather?" and the Siri gave me a response. Creating a voice menu for telephone systems. Maybe you calling *100 and it gives you a response. That's it. Or you at McDonald's and you're asking for what to order. That's the voice that it uses. Reading email or text messages aloud in hands-free scenarios, my favorite. So when on Microsoft Edge, one of the feature is that it can read to you your PDF documents. So basically, I just select the text that I want to be read out to me, and it just reads it out to me in the voice that I want. And broadcasting announcements in public locations, etc. So these are some pretty cool stuff. How to get started? As I mentioned earlier, you can create a a speech resource on Microsoft Azure that is specifically dedicated for the speech services that you want. Like it's specifically dedicated for speech services on Azure, or you can get the cognitive service or you can get the cognitive service, which caters for all the AI resource in one package. So if you just want the specific one, which is speech, you just create a speech resource. But if you want a whole round one, which includes speech resource, you use the cognitive service resource on Microsoft Azure. So so basically you're gonna on Microsoft Azure you get the speech to text API, which includes real-time transcription and batch transcription, and the text to speech API, which includes speech synthesis voices, as you can see. So there's basically two API: speech to text and text to speech API in simplicity. To summarize everything I just said now, we almost finished the presentation. I'll skip this. Wow, even more things to like more information. So now we're moving on to translation. So translating text to and speech, right? So now this is like from Zulu to Afrikaans or Afrikaans to Zulu, or English to Afrikaans or Zulu to English, basically. So basically, this involves literal and semantic translation. So now we have to train our AI model to be intelligent when translating. For example, we're gonna see in the example that we are here. So in early um, in any attempts of machine translation applied to literal translation, right? So basically, a word can be translated. So basically, in other words, what it's trying to say is that um, languages are different. It has different rules. It has different guidelines that it follows. For example, in Zulu, the verb comes before the noun. In English, we know that the verb comes after the noun, you know? So now we have to cater for all of that. How do we cater for all of that? And that's where the literal and semantic translation comes in. For example, the French phrase, since I'm French, I speak French, I say, in French, we say, éteindre la lumière. That means turn off the light, right? In English, if gets translated in English, it says turn off the light. But in other words, in French, we can also say fermer la lumière, fermer la lumière, which means the same thing, turn off the light. But now fermer la lumière is can also mean another thing, which is to close, like literally close the light. So if direct translation from French to English, you say close the light, which doesn't make sense in English. But in French, it does make sense if you get what I mean. So now the AI must be able to detect that fermer la lumière, éteindre la lumière is the same thing as turn off the light, as you can see. And so that's basically how literal and semantic translation works. So it's like a set of guidelines used to help our AI model to make better translations, basically. So in other words, we can also look at it is that, as I said earlier on, as human beings, we are limited in what we can do. We have some kind of limitation. We can find multilingual people or multilingual people who know many languages, they are limited as well. They know they as much as they know many languages, they may not think of a language very fast at that specific moment. They're gonna take time. They're gonna stumble, they're gonna stutter, but we translate with this API or with this model, it makes it easier for us to translate our desired text. That's like a lot to grasp in, but I try to simply summarize what that whole paragraph was all about. So as I said, to get started with translation in Azure, it's the same thing. You create your translator text servers, or on Azure, or you can use the cognitive service. It's the same thing for all the services that we're going to be taking a look at. So the translation in Azure consists of two services: translator text service and speech service. So basically, translator text service, it supports text to text translation, so meaning text to text, and it translates it to another language. And speech service translation, it enables us to speak a language, and it translates that to another language that we want, or speech to speech translation. So basically, I go to a new country and I speak a different language, basically. So I'm gonna be able to talk with that AI, and it's gonna make like, okay, that doesn't make sense. Basically, I go to a different country, I don't know the language. I just say in my language, for example, is Zulu. So I speak Zulu to my phone, and the AI will translate it to that foreign language, let's say Afrikaans. And so when I speak Afrikaans, the person is gonna understand, speak to their phone, and I'm going to understand likewise. So basically, it uses speech to translate. Yeah. In summary, that those are the two services. We almost finished. There's more information, and most, but not least, or the best for last, in other words, Lewis, language understanding a model, Lewis. So basically, that's what Lewis stands for. So Microsoft has this service called Lewis, and it's an intelligent language. It stands for Language Understanding Intelligence Service, Lewis. Language Understanding Intelligence Service. So basically, it's a service by Microsoft that allows us to create our own language. To like, there's no limitation. It allows us to do whatever we want with our own language. So basically, in the video that we saw, the guy made their own language for the game. They had people like the Nakians and stuff like that, like their own language for the user to interact with the game. And and they put the specific guidelines or set of rules on how that language is governed or how that language works. And how did they make that possible? With the use of Lewis, right? And in order for you to create your own language using Lewis, there's only three concepts that you must understand, and that is utterances, entities, and intents. What is utterances, entities, and intents? So basically, utterance is something that a user might say and which your application must interpret. An entity is an item to which an utterance refers. Intent represent the purpose or goal expressed in the user's utterance. So, for example, I'm trying to think of an example. An utterance is something that the user might say in your application and you must interpret. For example, switch off the light. That's something a user might say. In the video that we said, let's blast off or let's get started and go on our way. That is an utterance. An entity. So what is the utterance referring to? So in the example that I made, turn off the light is an entity. It's something in which the utterance is referred to. In the video that we watched is the spaceship. The spaceship must blast off. So that's an example of an entity. And intent. What is the intention? What is the desired goal or outcome of that utterance or that specific action or the purpose for it to execute? So in my instance, I want the lights to be off. I want there to be darkness. In the video that we watch, the ship must blast off. So those are just the three core concepts that you must understand just in order for you to use Lewis. It's easier as that. It's very easy as that. I'm just gonna say that. And then moving on to 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 get started with Lewis on Azure, as I said, you need the two resource. If you want the Lewis service on its own, then you just have to create the service on its own, or you can use the cognitive service which covers everything. So there's a catch with creating the service on its own. You can there's two types. There's authoring and prediction resource. So you have to choose which one you want. You want to create an authoring prediction or a prediction resource. So basically, authoring means you're creating your own language. You're creating how you want your language to govern, to how you want your language to be governed. So basically, setting the rules for your language that you're creating. And prediction is now you're predicting what's going to happen when that specific word is said in your language, basically as that. And like I said, four easy steps to use Lewis. Authoring, authoring, meaning you govern, you set your rules for what you want Lewis to do. You create your intent, you create your entities, you train the model, and you start predicting. It's as easy as that. And more information, I won't go into that. And there's some demos. That's the end of the presentation. Tinashe, is there any questions, and do we have time for some demos?
For myself, no questions currently. I'm just saying there's an opportunity for a variety of applications. I'm sure many of them, there's probably some ideas that are already being implemented as we speak. So, like, there looks like there's opportunities in maybe, I don't know, counseling psychology using this particular technology, or even the same way we transcribe into other languages or spoken audio into text for captions. There's an opportunity to maybe even convert that into perhaps sign language for handicap viewers or people who require sign language. So I can see the many opportunities using this particular technology.
Mm.
this technology.
You'd like like I said at the beginning, I'm just speechless on the capabilities. Like we could go on, we could like talk about this the whole day about where we can use this feature, where we can use this technology, and I'm sure you also have a lot of questions earlier on. If we continued answering your question, I don't think we will have finished my presentation for today. So like there's a lot. I think let me just show
Oh, okay.
one demo. Let me just show one demo. Um, let me show one demo. Okay, it's opening. I'll show the Lewis demo, right? I'll show the Lewis demo. So this is the technology that is used in smart houses, basically, right? This is the technology used in smart houses. So basically, all the lights are on in the house and everything, you know. So now it's time to now I want to say some certain commands. It's time to go to sleep, right? I can easily say it, but I'm using the text that's already uh, um, uh, provided for me, right? It's time to go to sleep. As you can see, the lights went off. The lights got turned off. I'm watching a movie. What happens now? A dedicated light. All the other lights go off, but now a dedicated light comes on as if you're in the cinema. I need to cut my carrots. So now what happens? The light illuminates even gets brighter in the kitchen. So this is just Lewis, an example of Lewis, and like throughout throughout the coming weeks, who will elaborate further on how we can make use of it. And one thing that I'm gonna try doing for the with this technology is to create live caption for our viewers on Inspire SA, you know, using the speech recognition. Another one is to also create my own language. I'm gonna try and get a linguistic. My friend that she does linguistics, she studies linguistics. I'm also gonna try and get on the show as well to see how we can elaborate with with the current governing rules of language and with AI. Like it's gonna be so cool. Like I'm really excited. So we'll see how it goes in the coming weeks. And if there's no question, I've come to the end of my presentation for today. Yes. Over to you, Tinashe. Over to you.
No, thank you very much, Narcis. I learned a lot and I got a lot of clarification. I had a vague idea of what natural language processing was before, but your presentation has like really clarified some things. And thank you for answering the questions. I'm sure not only myself, but a lot of the viewers would have on their minds of how natural language processing works, especially with regards to certain aspects like how it interprets the different languages and so forth. No, but
Mm.
thank you very much for the presentation once again. Uh, I can say that I was actually educated and lastly inspired, as you can tell by me throwing out ideas of how this could possibly be used.
Awesome, awesome. And that's why the show is about, just taking the latest technology and throwing it out there for the empowerment of people and for people to use wherever they want, however they want, in the everyday life, in the industry, on campus, at school, wherever you want. The tool is in your hands now. That's what we can say. Mhm. I think I'll close off the show for today.
No, thank
So um I know that we haven't been posting. I know that we haven't having episodes or airing episodes this week is tough. But all we can say that we are putting out episodes as much as we can, whenever we can. So we'll see how it goes. Women in Tech Wednesday, interview Mondays, they'll come along when everything's a bit stable. But other than that, stay tuned and keep stay tuned, and just make sure you don't miss out the episodes that we air out during this duration. Thank you again for coming. Don't forget to subscribe, and may you enjoy your evening and afternoon. Tinashe, would you like to say goodbye before we close off?
Yes, from my side, good night to everyone. And thank you. Hope you learned something new. And yeah, essentially inspired. I was personally. And thank you very much, Nasif, for the presentation. I could tell you put a lot of effort into it. And yeah, and I look forward to hearing more with regards to what's developing in the world of AI.
Awesome. Thanks. See you guys.